Expo of America, which was in New York and Chicago, and it's been in LA. So I've been at 3 different places. So I met people that way. But that has been the part of my business that just kind of was serendipity. I wasn't trying to do it, and it just happened. But it was really the editing has been my mainstay because I'm a good editor, and that made it good for me as an agent. I could tell a good book, and I could help fix it if it wasn't good.
That's great. That's great. Now let me ask you this: if someone, an author, any author, comes along and say, "Hey, I've got some material here. Want to do a book, and it's ready to go. You blessed it, edited it, and everything, and you said, okay, now let's go." What would be the next step? Would it be to get it published first and then take it to Amazon, or how do you do it?
I almost recommend that you go on and self-publish, and then if you build an audience, they come to you, then you're in control, and you can tell them. A lot of people where they've done that, and the publishers came to them, they were the light. I've heard Dave Banner say, "You are the light," and that's what his guide box is about. So it's the same for us as writers. They will come to you. So I recommend, because of the way the market is now, only Michelle Obama and former President Obama they're getting $60 million for their book.
Oh yes,
that doesn't happen all the time. So,
they're a self-celebrity and they already have
a big platform.
Right,
He already had books that were selling. After he became president, he made, I was looking at his tax statements, which we can still see his tax statements, but we can't see our current.
That's because number 45 is under audit.
Do we have a call?
Yeah, we have a caller. Our next guest is coming. So number 5, his is secretly in the audit's place.
Okay.
Okay, so our next guest is here?
Is she calling in? Okay. Hello, Casey.
Yeah.
How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, that's wonderful. You're speaking to Crystal Mitchell, and my co-host is Gilbert Buchanan, and we're so happy to have you on the show.
Hello, Casey.
Hello there. How are you today?
We're doing very fine. We've got a wonderful guest in our studios here, Dr. Maxine Thompson. We're talking about. Do you know her?
No, I don't, but just saying hi to her.
Ah, okay.
Hi, how are you?
So you're here for the Black Writers on Tour conference as well, right?
Exactly.
So you will meet her tomorrow.
Yes, we'll meet tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
So let me introduce Casey to all of us and to our listening audience. Casey is pretty unique. She's an African American woman who's blazed some trails. She broke some color lines. So she's one of the literary hidden figures, I guess, or the airlines hidden figures. Yeah. So Casey, she was one of the first African American stewardess, or now we call flight attendants, for Delta Airlines. And Patricia Murphy, a Chicago native, was the first one hired in 1966. Grant worked alongside other pioneers for almost 35 years, and she's an author, and she has written the book Stars in the Sky, which gives an insight into the daily encounters of racism as one of the first African American stewardess being denied access to the cockpit because her kind was not allowed. Thrilling stories of hijacking and the well-orchestrated evacuations, the murder of 2 of her co-workers, and an irate passenger attack on Grant during a flight. So, Miss Grant, I was talking to Barbara Lindsay, and I am so happy she referred you to us as a guest today. But we were talking that back in the 60s and even in the 70s when I was in college and 80s, there were so many of my friends that wanted to be in the airline industry, and they didn't care about any other part of the industry but being a flight attendant. Yeah. And it was like the glamour job for women, the glamour job of all glamour jobs. So is that true?
Oh, it's absolutely the truth. And that's why the book is called Stars in the Sky, because we're on the same level with the models and the movie stars, and we were those stars in the sky. So yes, it was fabulous. Absolutely a fabulous opportunity.
So, but there were a lot, and one of the things I remember specifically, there were a lot of criterias for you to even be selected. So, what were the criterias? And then let us know what your experiences and a little highlight of your book so that we can get people to go out and buy Stars in the Sky.
Well, back then you had to be a certain height. I think you couldn't be any shorter than 5'1". You had to weigh
5'1".
5'1". And
wow.
That was the shortest that they took you. And then your weight had to be, in accordance with your height. I was supposed to weigh 120. I was 5'4", and that was the most that I could weigh. Yeah. Now, I was blessed to be able to, I weighed 120. I gained a quarter of a pound when I was in training. And after I had taken all my tests and I was ready to go, my supervisor needed to weigh me to make sure that I had lost that quarter of a pound. And God, and I tell you, it was a blessing because I still couldn't get rid of a quarter of a pound.
Man.
Yeah, and so because her forgetting and becoming distracted, she didn't weigh me. But we had to wear girdles for our foundation. You had to wear gloves. You had to wear hats. So it was way back in those days of all those different types of things. But if you gained weight and could not lose it within a reasonable time, then you would lose your job.
Wow.
So they weighed you all the time?
They weighed you every 3 months.
Wow.
Wow.
That is something else.
So when did that change?
Well, it changed in the 80s. A lot of the girls got together because I was always on weight check, and which means they were checking your weight. You had to go in. If you hadn't lost it in a couple of days, then you went on suspension, which meant you lost money. So it changed in the 80s. Because all the airlines were doing the same thing. And so the girls got together, took it to court, and won the settlement. And then they increased it because at that point you could weigh maybe about 10 pounds more, because that was an old scale that they were trying to project what we should be during those days. So then we got a few more pounds, and then, still dealing with court dealings and stuff. And so they had to finally say the appearance. You had to appear a certain way in your uniform. And that's what they have now, is that you just have to be presentable in your uniform. They can't tell you that you weigh too much anymore. So there's all those discriminations that we were fighting.
Now, age also, wasn't there an age limit or criteria for how old you could be?
Well, you had to be 21 because we were selling liquor.
Okay.
So you had to be able, by law, to be able to sell the liquor. Nowadays, it's the same thing, but you can fly as long. We had a flight attendant that she was in her 80s before she finally decided she was ready to retire.
80s?
So they can't be in the 80s. So they can't discriminate in age or weight.
Okay. Okay.
As long as you can perform, and it is testing that we have to go through. If you pass your test, your performance test, then you can fly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wow, fantastic.
So what was the first firm you decided to work with in that line of work?
Well, my father was in the Air Force, so travel was in my body, in my soul, in my spirit. I knew I wanted to travel. I was going to join the service. A girlfriend joined ahead of me and told me don't join because it was hard. And my supervisor, I went to the University of Illinois. She had a friend who had just gotten a promotion, a job with the airlines, and said, you should be a stewardess. Well, that sounded good, but they weren't really hiring blacks. But I was blessed that she, because of him, he helped me to get in. The push was on to hire blacks, and so I had the opportunity to be hired in 71. And as you said, Patricia Grace Murphy was the very first one that Delta Airlines hired, and that was in 1966. And that was because they were being forced to hire blacks. Because, we were all fighting. Affirmative action was there. Women were fighting for equal rights. So it was just a turbulent time.
That is amazing.
Now, when you, and I'm going to flash forward over to 2017, but when I have a girlfriend that retired from the airlines. She with Continental, but she worked in the human. She's a HR director. So I heard a lot about the airlines over the years through her, and I fly as her companion. So I kind of get it from I see the backside when we're flying. For years I was her companion, but and there was a certain type of customer service that was offered then, right? You guys were well trained in personal interaction with your customers, which were the passengers, right?
Exactly, and that's what the 6 weeks of training is all about. Delta's philosophy when I started flying was that we were to treat passengers as if they were a guest in our house, and that's the type of training, along with the proper way to serve things, the proper wine, the proper food, the proper utensils. All these different things. So it was customer service. But customer service was a big thing back days ago, before, automation. You call up and you talk to a machine. I mean, you talk to a real person that was there to satisfy you. So customer service has done a big change since 71. And some of the incidences that are happening now, it's because I don't think people show as much loyalty to companies like they used to. Some of these people are, they're contract work, and they don't really care. They know they're never going to retire. They know they're never going to get benefits. They don't really care if the company survives or not. So I just think customer service has really has taken a bad turn. I just don't think we are into as much customer service as we used to be.
Yeah, because that was pretty evident on the United Airlines flight last week, and even I believe yesterday. Oh, there was another incident. I don't remember what flight. I think that was that Delta, where the young woman with although that didn't make sense with the carriage, because usually they will tell you to take it off.
I think that was American.
That was American.
Yeah, but
yesterday was Delta, right?
Yesterday they had one with Delta where I guess the male passenger wanted to use the restroom.
Yeah.
And they didn't think that he should use it before, because they were getting ready to take off.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it was a big thing. But I do know that United Airlines I think they're going to now offer up to $10,000 compensation when they ask you to deboard.
Really?
And they're going to no more overbooking, because that creates a hassle for everybody, not just the customer. And then that's what my girlfriend was telling me. She said that's a real hassle, from the gates to the HR from the whole, every level in the airline industry is affected by that overbooking.
Yeah, that's organizational distrust, or how do you say this? It's not structured properly the way it ought to be done. So that's on the organization. You see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So, operations.
Exactly.
Yeah. It comes down to the operations. Yeah. And I think it was something else they said, that no more overbooking, and they would not bring any local authorities to help mitigate the issue. And they were going to work on their customer service issues with their staff.
Okay.
Let's see how long that happens for.
Well, but we all need to be retrained, and because we all become complacent in jobs, and everyone has troubles and problems of their own, and when people get a little authority, like the people, I think that everyone in the whole world got to see how they handled the situation, and it was just not handled properly. Yeah. And so, yes, do they need more training? Yes. Do they need maybe even some anger management training? Yes. So it's bad. And it's bad for the company. And it's like anything else. You can go into a place and you can get bad service and you say you'll never go back. But it's that one person. It's not the company. Yeah. It's not the business. It's one person.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you cannot get away from not flying anywhere.
Exactly. So, hopefully people will come back to all the airlines, and they will not let these terrible incidences, change their mind and never say they'll never fly United, Delta, American, well, we can't do TWA, but all the airlines, and come back, because that's the same. It's the people, it's the individuals that mishandled.
See, the thing about it is the representatives on the plane, they are an ambassador to the airline. So they're representing that airline. And they, I mean, I'm not trained to be a flight attendant or a pilot or whatever, but looking at that incident, to me, it didn't look right. It just did not look right. No. And from an organizational development standpoint, I'm looking at that, and immediately I saw that was a breakdown in the system. How can you overbook? How can you overbook? With all these technology and all of this that you have right now, how can you overbook?
Yeah.
Well, there's a formula for that. And the thing is, the airlines do a lot of things. And I mean, I can't state anything, but that's been a practice, and it works out. The formula has worked. And usually it doesn't get out of hand. So if there's a situation, because what happens, it's not even just that particular flight may be overbooked. It could be a carryover from somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
A flight may have canceled. So those situations are going to come up, but you just have to handle them in a more humane manner and professional, and that's the key to the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's professional. It's the customer service. So whatever they were doing when you were a flight attendant, they need to go back to that method.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. As I said, it's about, we took pride. That's why the book is called Stars in the Sky, as I said before, because we were on the level with the models and the movie stars and everything else. And when you saw a stewardess, it was about being graceful and gracious and well-posed and dressed well in manners and knew all these different things. You could communicate with anybody because that's what we had to do. So you had that training, the training that women used to go through, charm and class and etiquette and all that type of stuff. And so you were the epitome of that, and customer service was what you were there for. And the safety of the passengers. Remember, I have to throw it. Flight attendants are there for your safety, not just customer service to serve you, but their safety features.
Yeah. Now, Casey, tell me about at least 2 or 3 key takeaways from this book that you've written that, if nothing else, you would like the audience to remember and think about of your book.
And go and buy your book.
Yeah.
Okay. Exactly. Well, yes, we'll start in the sky. The inspiration for me to write the book is because I do believe that I'm fighting for, I want black stewardesses / flight attendants to be able to claim their spot in aviation history. We were denied that opportunity to become the TWA, Pan Am, the white girl story, but you don't know the black girl story. So my book is here to tell you that the things that we had to encounter. We were called the N-word to our face by the crew members who didn't want us to be in first class, didn't want us to serve them, didn't want us on the airplane.
Wow.
We were denied hotel rooms because they didn't want blacks in the hotel even though we were a crew member.
Did you have a little insect poisoning back then? I mean, I'm sorry.
Did what?
He said when you were standing in the hotel. Where were you supposed to stay?
I was thinking when you're in first class and these guys did not want you there. I'm just wondering, did you have a little insect poisoning then? You could just put in their food, but no.
Well, you know what? Those are those things that you don't tell, but on air, I can tell you a bunch of things. Because it's just like they always say, don't send your food back and don't upset the cook.
Exactly.
When you're in a restaurant, because you never know. Okay, then, well, you can believe things like that go on.
Exactly.
I can imagine.
Exactly. You don't treat me mean and think I'm not supposed to retaliate. that ain't right. So anyway, those are the different things, and some of the things that I do want is I think that we need to. I don't know why the aviation field is so overlooked. Because you can become a doctor, a lawyer, you can become a nurse, you can become a stewardess, a captain, a flight attendant, a captain. You can be work in the air traffic control. There's so many wonderful fields that pays well and gives you the privilege of flying all over the world free. And we do not, so I try to push that when I'm talking to the young kids in school. Seek out aviation, STEM, science, technology, math, electronics. That's a wonderful field for you to excel in, and we need to stress it. So those are the type of things, but I really want people to understand we went through a lot to get this job, stories that you've never heard and you did not know.
That's good.
I started reading it last night. I pulled it the sample down from Kindle, and I'll be purchasing the book because I was interested. But it wasn't just you; it was your father. It was everybody. The Air Force. I mean, he was in the Air Force as well, right? Or I think that's what I read. He in the military, but he was on an all black, a base that was all black, right?
Yes.
And okay, and a pilot, was he a pilot or?
No, he wasn't a pilot, but he encountered racism too. He had to stand up, and because he wanted the best for his family, and he did. And my father, he gave us that opportunity to travel. I started school in England. I've lived in Africa. As a matter of fact, you read that in the book. Gaddafi was in the mountains, and he was a renegade, so we were exposed to him way back when I was a child, and living in California, and then finally settling in Illinois, but traveling all over the world and meeting all types of people. And the thing for me as a child, it wasn't about you being black, white, green, or whatever. It was about you being an American citizen. Mm-hmm. And we were there in a foreign country, and we were Americans representing America, and we bonded. So my father dealt with the racism but as a child, he didn't see a lot of that racism.
Mm-hmm. So he protected you guys, pretty much.
He did.
Yeah.
He protected us. And as I say in the book, he was able to be promoted because his name was Eric Grant, and there weren't many blacks. So he wasn't automatically discarded because of his name, and they knew he was black. On one of his papers that I had, they had him down as white.
Wow.
I don't understand that, but I have this feeling he's gone now, of course, but his papers, it says race, white. I don't know how that mistake happened, but Daddy was promoted in different fields and was able to accomplish probably more because of his name, being able to open up the door.
Well, don't feel bad about that, because I got a mortgage one time because they said I was white, so...
And actually,
they make those mistakes.
And it's so funny because I had read that in your book last night, and then this morning I was watching The View, and LL Cool J was on the View. On Kelly on Kelly's show, and one of the things she said, her co-host, he called LL Cool J Todd. He said, "Yeah, that's my name." He says, "My mother gave me James Todd. It was a very white name, Todd James." He said it was a very white name because she wanted to make sure. And this is what your father said, right? He wanted to make sure that you would get a job on paper.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I think we all, the older people, when the young kids start naming